Speaker Talahi. Speaker Talahi, nay.
On the motion to go back to motions, the vote is 11 ayes, 3 nays. So we are back in motions. Under motion, Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I motion to place Resolution 223-37 LS in the third reading voting file for voting.
There's a motion to place Resolution number 223-37 LS. I'm going to rule that motion out of order according to 2 GCA 2103B, which states that this is the Guam Code annotated, which states that no substantive resolution that is to be transmitted to the United States President, a member of the United States Congress, or a head of a foreign state may be passed by a Legislature unless it has received a public hearing. Said public hearing shall be conducted by the primary author of the resolution. The resolution should then be placed on the Legislature's agenda upon the written request of the primary author to the Speaker to speak without further committee action and without a committee report. This is not a rule that we're waiving, despite the motion notwithstanding the rules. This is a 2GCA, so that's my ruling. Is there any other motion?
Motion to overrule the chair, Madam Speaker.
There's a motion to overrule the chair's ruling that this putting this resolution on our agenda without a public hearing is out of order. All those in favor of overruling the chair, please raise your hand. Motion fails. We are now under motions. Majority Leader, you are recognized. Sorry. Is that? I didn't understand why you were raising. So, Vice Speaker, you are recognized.
Si Zeus Masi, Madam Speaker, and I don't know if this is a notwithstanding motion, but on the motion to add to the agenda the appointments, I have 3 to the voting file. I have 3 appointments, Madam Speaker, and then the first one would be on behalf of the Vice Speaker, on behalf of the Committee on Human Resources, Agana Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, Technology, and Federal and Foreign Affairs, the reappointment of Monique R. Story, PhD, to serve as a member of the Public Library System Board of Directors. The reappointment of Nicole B. Nelson. We'll take it one by one. Yes. And I will note for the record, Madam Speaker, that these appointments had no opposition on the public hearing. As a matter of fact, everybody who came to the public hearing supported the efforts, and I will do it for the other 2. But more importantly, that it did receive consent from the committee and was turned into the Committee on Rules. So everything should have already been uploaded.
All right, on the motion to place on the legislative concurrence of our session agenda, the nomination of Monique Story to the Guam Public Library System. Is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Where's Dwayne? Yeah.
Sorry, please hold your hands up. All in favor of putting the nomination of Monique Story for the Guam Public Library System onto legislative concurrence on our agenda, please raise your hand. 9. Motion carries.
Madam
Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
On the reappointment, I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, I'll do this again. From the Committee on Human Resources, Hagana Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, Technology, Federal and Foreign Affairs, Madam Speaker, this would be for the reappointment of Nicole B. Nelson to serve as a member, which is the Information Technology Representative for the Guam Public Library System Board of Directors. Again, Madam Speaker, we'll note for the record, on the public hearing, she received unanimous support from all the members that were present that day and positive testimony. So on the motion, Madam Speaker, I hope my colleagues will support the effort to put it on the agenda. Again, everything is uploaded, and it's been uploaded for more than 24 hours, Madam Speaker. So on the motion.
On that motion, is there any objection? Is there any objection?
No.
There's an objection.
All those.
On the,
I
all
object,
in
Madam
favor.
Speaker, and
We
I'm
heard
gonna
your.
object.
There is an objection. All in favor.
We continue to publish
Please
this in the
raise your
paper, Madam
hand.
Speaker,
Please
to
raise
tell
your
the
hand.
people
All
that this
in
is what
favor.
we're doing,
Order.
and then we get on the floor and we
Senator
add
Brown,
things on that are not
You're
published
out
to
of
the
order.
public.
All in favor of the motion, notwithstanding the objection, please raise your hand. Eight, motion carries. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
I do have one more appointment, Madam Speaker, if I may. From the committee, from my committee again, on Human Resources, Hagana Revitalization, Regional Affairs, Public Libraries, Telecommunications, Technology, and Federal and Foreign Affairs, the appointment of Nolan G.T. Flores to serve as a member, which would be the general public's representative to the Guam Public Library Systems Board of Directors. Again, I will repeat, this nomination did have its public hearing and received full support at the public hearing, and it has been submitted to Committee on Rules and gone through the process and is now uploaded. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On the motion to place the nomination of Nolan B. Flores for the Guam Public Library System onto the legislative concurrence
have an objection.
on our agenda, is there any objection?
I'm objecting.
There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Eight, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. We're still on motions. Senator Shelton, you are recognized, Majority Leader.
Sijuis Masi, Madam Speaker. I move to add the appointment of Dorothy P. Harris to serve as a member of the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors for a term of 3 years onto the session agenda.
There's a motion to place the nomination of Dorothy P. Harris onto our legislative Harris onto our session agenda under legislative concurrence. There's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Eight, motion carries. Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, Sijuis Masi, I move to add the appointment of Judith P. Guthards to serve as a member of the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors onto the session agenda.
There's a motion to place the nomination of Judith P. Guthards for the Port Board. There's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. Eight, motion carries.
Madam Speaker, I move to place the appointment of Francisco G. Santos to serve as a member of the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors on the session agenda.
Is that Francisco P. Santos?
Francisco G. Santos.
G. Santos. On the nomination, on the motion to place the nomination of Francisco G. Santos onto our legislative concurrence, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Six, motion fails.
Madam Speaker, I move to place the appointment of Louis R. Baza to serve as a member of the Port Authority of Guam Board of Directors on the session agenda.
Objection.
There's a motion to place a nomination of Louis R. Baza onto the legislative concurrence on our agenda. There's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion fails.
Situus Masi, Madam Speaker.
Did you count? Are there any other motions? Motions, Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Don't worry, Madam Speaker. It's nothing crazy. Just a motion. I want to make a motion to set aside my bill 57. Oh wait, no. Can I at this time, ma'am?
It's on the second reading, but what's your motion? What is
I
your
just
motion?
wanted to motion to set aside bill number 57-37, ma'am.
Set it aside on the second reading?
Set it aside, like aside.
Take it off the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to remove bill number, what's the number? Sorry, Senator.
It's bill 57-37, and it's the expedited procurement for all purchases made with ARP funds for the entirety of Guam.
Motion to remove bill number 57-37 from the agenda. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. We're still under motions. Are there any other motions? If not, then we are under legislative concurrence. Okay, under legislative concurrence, these are the nominations. Yes.
Situus Masi, Madam Speaker. I move to place the nomination of Dorothy Harris to serve as a board member of the Port Authority of Guam in the voting file.
On that motion, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries.
And Madam Speaker, I move to place into the voting file the nomination of Judith Gutter as board member of the Port Authority of Guam.
On that motion, there's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the motion to place onto the voting file the reappointment of Dr. Monique R.C. Story to serve as a member of the Guam Public Library Systems Board of Directors.
On that motion, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the reappointment of Nicole B. Nelson to serve as a member, the Information Technology Representative to the Guam Public Library Systems Board of Directors. Madam Speaker, I make this motion to put it in the voting file.
On that motion to place the nomination in the voting file, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. 11, motion carries.
Madam Speaker, if I may. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, the appointment of Nolan G.T. Flores to serve as a member for the General Public Representative to the Guam Public Library Systems Board of Directors. I make the motion to the third reading voting file, please.
On the nomination of Nolan B. Flores to be placed in the voting file, there's been an objection. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Situus Masi, we've exhausted our legislative concurrence. We're back on second reading. we will return to second reading. So we're now on second reading. We are going to proceed with bill number 97-37 COR, where we left off. Senator Kanata, you're recognized to close on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to propose an amendment to 97-37 on page 17, page 2. Line 17, page 2. To amend the bill to read as the situation earlier with Senator Blas with comprising to compromising. Again, line 7, page 2.
On that motion, is to change the word comprising to compromising. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Senator Kanata.
Madam Speaker, I'm like to propose an amendment again to lines 21 through 26 and 1 through 7, pages 2 through 3, to amend section 2 of the bill to read to strike out designated use and transfer of property, and then to read authorization to enter into a memorandum of agreement. The government of Guam is authorized and shall enter in a memorandum of agreement for jurisdictional authority with the Inalahan Mayor and Inalahan Municipal Planning Council relative to lot number 106-1, block 12, Inalahan, Guam Estate number 86788, urban containing an area of 869.29 square meters, as shown as in the drawing number 14-82T242, L.M. number 098 FY85, prepared by the Government of Guam, the Department of Land Management Land Survey Division, dated 04/24/1985, and recorded under instrument number 367991 in the municipality of Inalahan, and strikeout in here is hereby transferred to the Guam Preservation Trust, GPT, for the purpose, and it stops there, for the purpose and the stabilization and restoration of the Inalahan Baptist Church, and then underline again and in place, provided the property shall be managed and maintained and insured in the trust of the people of Guam as an historic site according to the rules and set by the Guam Preservation Site, and with that underline. And then also, and Imen 37 na Estorban hereby authorizes Imaga Hagan Guahan to transfer jurisdictional authority with the memorandum of agreement of lot 106-1 municipality of Inalahan to Inalahan Mayor and Inalahan Municipal Planning Council, and the Inalahan Mayor and Inalahan Municipal Planning Council shall enter an memorandum of agreement of Guam Preservation Trust 2. Underlined. That whole paragraph. So I guess it's easy. Good.
There's still some more relating to. You ended on trusts, and it should add relating to lot.
Oh, sorry. Again, yeah, continuation, my bad. Lot number 106-1, formerly known as the Inalahan Baptist Church, Municipality of Inalahan, Guam, for the purpose of stabilizing and restoring its historical structure.
All right, and the
That's
remainder
it.
will be struck.
And then the strike, the remainder of the bill is, the remainder of this section is to be striked out.
All right, so this
Right,
is an
yeah.
amendment to section 2 of the bill. It's been passed out since this morning. Is there any discussion on this amendment? If not, then the sponsor may close on the amendment.
Okay, I am pleased to stand before you today to advocate for this
Wait,
legislation.
sorry.
Oh,
On the amendment, are you is there any objection on the amendment? Seeing no objection, the amendment passes. And
Yes,
to
good.
further close on the bill, Senator Kanata, you're recognized.
no, that's good. It's okay. Carry on. But, motion to move it to the voting file, the third reading. For the voting file. Yeah. Who wants to be a sponsor? I think Telo Taidagwe wants to be first. Jesse, Chris, Joseph, Augustine, Amanda, Tina, Joanne. Everyone, it's Christmas. Yeah. Okay, Merry
All right,
Christmas.
Senator Kanata, could you please restate your motion?
Okay, Senator Taidagwe, Jesse Lohan, Tina Rose Barnes, Amanda Shelton, Senator Joseph Augustine, Will Parkinson, Dwayne, Tom Fisher, Sabina Perez, Chris Barnett, Frank Bloss, Speaker, and anybody else? Yes, already Sabina, right? Good. Okay, I think
On that motion,
everyone's covered.
clerk, do you have the motion? All right, on that motion to add sponsors, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Final motion on the bill, Senator Canasta. Motion to place
Motion to place it on third reading file. Thank
third
you.
reading file. Is there any objection to that motion to place the bill as amended? Seeing no objection, motion carries. Situs Masi, Senator. We're now on bill number 9-37, COR. Senator San Nicolas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to make sure that this bill is as substituted on the floor from we're discussing the right bill. This is bill number 9-37 as introduced or as substituted on the floor, introduced by myself.
Sorry, 1 minute. Does everybody have that copy, the one that says as substituted? I don't think so. So we'll take a 1 minute recess, I'm sorry, Senator, to make sure that that's the copy that everyone has. It's on the drive according to the clerks. Who needs a hard copy? Please raise your hand and we'll get you a hard copy. Thank you. Okay, 1 minute recess.
It's Halloween.
We're back from recess. The copies of the substituted version of Bill number 9-37 COR have been distributed. Senator San Nicolas is the main sponsor. You may open on the bill, introduce the bill.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to introduce this and open it up now for discussion. It's been a long time coming for me, this bill. I remember back when I was a child, one of my favorite times was when I'd ask my dad to stroll over and go to Acme store. And, he'd say, just get whatever you want. I'd pick some smoke bombs, some stink bombs, and some bottle rockets. It was a real good time of my life, something I shared with my dad. And about when I was about 12, they just blanketed all fireworks and made it illegal. And slowly the little pop packs and the little party poppers and all those things just started to disappear from shelves. And I blamed that draconian law. And when I was studying to be a counselor, we took a test and they rated me up there real high up in the altruism, to do things for others without any regard to self. And sometimes I just wish that people understood that some of us just do things just because we love other people and we want them to be happy. We want them to celebrate. When I was a customs officer recruit, Captain Cabina was my instructor for report writing. And he, I couldn't write really well when I was much younger. And so told us to take out our notebooks and go out into the parking lot to observe his car. And it was a little bit right after New Year's. And we gathered around his car, and on the hood of his car was a .45 slug that fell from the sky during New Year's Eve. And we were supposed to draw it, examine it, try to find the perpetrator, make out a police report, just looking at that slug on his hood. But I went home that evening and I thought to myself how dangerous it would be to be under the open sky during New Year's Eve. And so as a young father, every time New Year's came around, I would gather up my kids, and right before midnight, I'd bring them in under cover, under concrete cover, because I feared for their safety. But more than that, I had an uncle who I loved so much, very patient guy, and just a really, really nice guy. But I watched as he would, during New Year's Eve, go to the back and shoot up his weapon. And I was just a kid back then, so who am I to say anything to our elders, right? But all he wanted to do, he was a wonderful gentleman, law-abiding guy, just a really, really wonderful person. But he was drawn to celebrate, and he celebrated the wrong way. Imagine if we had fireworks back then, consumer-grade fireworks. My uncle, who's such a wonderful person, wouldn't have been driven to celebrate wrongly. So all of this stuff culminates, and it goes back to when I was a child. I've throughout the years, maybe 2 decades, I've tried to ask senators. I'd email them, try to talk to them. Some of them said they would get back to me, but to no avail. And so I continued the notion and the dream to keep it alive, so that one day, we can be here. And I never thought it would be me. I never thought it would be me to follow the dream, and that's why we're here. But I introduced this bill, and it took a while. And everybody had put their input. We given enough time for everybody. And this bill that was substituted has all the recommendations from fire, and we put it all in here. And so what this bill does, as opposed to the law today, is this bill defines what safe and sane fireworks is. And it distinguishes it from commercial grade fireworks, which is what you see being displayed during New Year's Eve and 4th of July. And so it defines that. It goes in depth as to storage. It also goes into the fines and what are the areas in which you can display your fireworks. And this makes it safe. But I'm also welcome and open to more amendments to help me out, so that way we can get this fireworks, consumer grade fireworks, safe and sane fireworks for the public to enjoy. And that's why I'm here, Madam Speaker. So I just want to make people happy. That's all I've ever wanted to do all my life. So I'm asking my colleagues' support to help make this bill better, and I welcome all amendments, and I ask my colleagues for their support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. On that motion, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the bill? Senator Taitui, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and colleagues. The Guam Code annotated Title 10, subsection 58109 Fireworks, Chapter 58, apply named fire prevention, specifically stated that no fireworks shall be permitted in Guam unless consigned to the territorial federal government, in which case they shall not be discharged except under the direct supervision of the authorities of one of said governments. Now, why is this law currently in effect? Well, given my opposition to legislating more problems for Guam, I did my research to find out why we have the law in the first place. And in speaking to a licensed, authorized, educated, and experienced individual who has safely been presenting our community with beautiful and safe fireworks to display for years, the current law prohibiting the sale of fireworks to the public was born after an incident involving a number of individuals who took smaller fireworks and turned them into larger explosives. Thanks to our lawmakers back then, they had sense, vision, and fortitude to take action. And with that, they passed safely law to prevent any more of our people from getting needlessly hurt by enacting a ban on fireworks. Now, I have to ask, why are we here today to revise this law that has protected our children, our home, our environment from unnecessary fires and firework-related accidents? Are we here to fulfill an entertainment priority by legalizing potential fire hazards, the loss of limbs, and needless tragedy disguised as sparkling entertainment? We are in the 21st century. Drones have done its job to help us go in a direction. Are we here to protect the interest? Are we really here to protect the interest of our people? Now, the legislative intent stated in Bill 937 speaks to fireworks being safe and sane. The people recalling fond memories of familiar bonding experiences from back in the days, nostalgia. But I caution my colleagues, back in the day, pregnant women smoked cigarettes. Children were no longer needed in child care car seats were non-existent. And methamphetamines were prescribed in pills for weight loss. Just because something was done in the old days with a smile and a Coke commercial doesn't mean we should bring it back today. In true fashion of the 37th Guam Legislature, we once again violated our own standing rules and haphazardly, through this dangerous legislation, into the agenda to legalize the possibility of danger, injury, and accidental fires. My colleagues, were you not listening to the fire officials who came to the public hearing to testify against the legislation? I spoke to GFD Chief Joey Nicholas, who implored me to consider these simple facts. One, during Guam's dry season from January to July, our firefighters are risking their lives to extinguish 1 to 3 grass fires a day. During this season, which is exactly this is during New Year's and Liberation, our firefighters are risking their lives to protect our neighborhoods, our homes, to put out 1 to 3 structural fires a week. And I'm sure the oversight chair will tell you that we don't have enough firefighters. We're losing them to retirement. And now we're adding, no pun intended, fuel to the fire. These numbers alone should be enough to stop us dead in our tracks in entertaining Bill number 9-37, a measure that proposes to add more danger and risk to the already hazardous jobs of men and women in GFD. I ask my colleagues here today, are you ready to open the door for Guam to experience the catastrophic fire that destroyed the historical town of Lahaina in Maui this year? Isn't that an eye-opener? Isn't that telling you something? I think God came down and said, okay, this happened, this fireworks is coming up. Let me remind you, how many people died? It was an accident that took 97 lives and cost billions of dollars in property and environmental damage. We in this body did not even need to provoke an accident like this with open sale of fireworks to retail stores. Our community has far too many accidents that take our lives without the legislature adding fuel again to the fire. Bill 9-37 makes it easy for us to put it all on the line so that we can all sell hazardous fireworks for fun, entertainment, and profit. Are we ready to ignite our struggling hospital, which does not have a burn unit, with firework injuries? Is this the message this body is sending to our people? Fire is fun. Fireworks are harmless. Go ahead and buy them at the store near you. We don't even have a burn unit at the hospital to cover any accidents or injuries. And don't tell me if anyone stands up here and says, oh no, you can't get burned from fireworks. You're living in a different world. In doing my due diligence and speaking with a licensed fire business owner, I've learned that cleanup after fireworks is even more difficult than the setup and launch. Imagine that. More work for our regulatory, environmental, and public safety agencies, none of which are adequately addressed in this legislation. None of them are adequately addressed. Where is the funding? Who will regulate? Which one of our short-staffed public safety agencies will be tapped to ensure that only the proper milligrams of explosives are in Joe Cruz's pyrotechnic composition when he sets off fireworks for fun in Molesto on New Year's Eve? I know one of my colleagues in support of legalizing fire said that they need data, more statistics, to qualify the dangers of fireworks. My question to this body is, why do we need a firework accident to happen? Why do we need a child in our community to die or lose an arm before we acknowledge that fireworks are dangerous? Do we need firework deaths to count to force a future body to come back and repeal the law should it pass today? We can be proactive right now and leave this firework prohibition law intact instead of racing to react. The repeal tomorrow because people die in firework accidents. They die. You want the blood on your hands? Because by voting for this bill, you are putting blood on your hands. For what? Entertainment? I'd like to point out for the record of this session that our highest level fire officials came to the public hearing on Bill 9 to warn us of the dangers of this legislation. And I asked my colleagues, are you going to go against the advice of the very men and women who firsthand deal with dangers of fire? I'd also like to point out that one of our lawmakers introduced legislation to increase funding to GFD, to get more firefighters, because clearly we are short in manpower. With this shortage and retirement on the horizon for many of them, again, GFD personnel, it's not now. Now is not the time to increase our fire risks. Some of you say, oh, Senator Tello is just being stick in the mud, a wet blanket. You might say this measure was built in restrictions and fines. Well, guess what? There are laws against underage smoking, vaping, and alcohol use. None of those are stopping vaping problems in our school. The law against illegal drugs that have yet to curb our meth problem and the violent crimes that stem from our drug epidemic. My question to you all today is, why are we legislating more problems for Guam? Can you imagine the noise? This bill is an open book on blowing up fireworks, putting firecrackers together to make it even louder. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., all the way through, 24 hours. Anyone can fire fireworks. You're sleeping at home and someone's blowing up some fireworks. Well, it's because it's legal. Can you imagine how much issues our mayors are going to have? Those who are at the front line, our mayors, who sent to us a letter just today asking us to hold off on this bill. Our mayors, President Jesse Alec asked us to hold off on this bill, because they're the ones that are going to have to address this when Tan Maria calls them up and saying, there's some boys like that are blowing up firecrackers since 11 o'clock at night, 12 midnight. But guess what? The mayor's going to say, I'm sorry, like, there's nothing we can do. It's legal. It's legal. You know, I want to leave you all with the words of a mother who lost her child, whose words were published by international news outlet in July of 2022. I won't repeat the obscene words for obvious reasons, but she said, I held my son's broken skull and brains in my hands last night. That's the reality. Don't even blank by those damn things. I'll never see my son again over blank fireworks. Don't ever think it can happen to yours. Fireworks are no joke. And when you think it won't be yours, in a blink of an eye, it is. Colleagues, don't let a Guam mother repeat those words. Don't let the news stories read a child has died from firework accident after a long introduced 8 lawmakers legalizing the public sale of fireworks for our community. Let's stop legislating new problems for Guam. I know that this bill might pass because of those who sponsored the bill. And I just can't see that happening without me doing anything about it. Because I'm only one. There might be a few other here who believe the same thing I do. But if you look at this bill and the names on this bill, there's 8. There's 8. I have amendments that I have proffered to do what I can just in case this bill passes. But before I start, Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask, you know what, I'll wait. Because one of those amendments is going to be a telltale of why this bill was introduced. And it deals with self-serving. So I'll just wait until that amendment comes up. So the amendment should be with the clerk, and I'll start with my first one.
You have an amendment?
I have several, Madam Speaker.
All right. Have they been passed out, clerks? All right. Copies are not yet distributed. The clerks are getting them distributed, so we'll take a 1-minute recess while the amendments get distributed.
It's Halloween! It's Halloween.
We're back from recess. I believe your amendments have been passed out now. Senator Tagui, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, line 1, page 11, to add a new section to the bill to read 58309. This is to promulgate rules and regulations. The Guam Fire Department shall, in consultation with appropriate department and agency, develop rules and regulations in accordance to the administrative adjudication law and consistent with the provisions of this chapter to govern the sale, storage, and use of fireworks.
All right, the amendment's been passed out. Line 1, page 11, a new section 58309. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the amendment? If not, Senator San Agustin on the amendment.
Madam Speaker, I'm just trying to understand, and maybe the author of the amendment can bring clarity. On page 7, line 6, the Guam Fire Department shall conduct a study on the effects of fireworks on public safety after 3 years of enactment of this act. The study may be used to determine if amendments to this act are warranted. We need to remember that when they had the hearing, many of this, and that's why it was substituted, was by the fire department. When they testified, they didn't testify for or against. So I'm only concerned that you want the fire department to, in consultation with appropriate agency.
No,
I'm trying to understand.
the amendment that we're talking about right now is the new section 58309.
Yes, that's what I'm speaking about. Because when you look at that, and it's 309, but in page 7, there's a section there that the fire department.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. There's two amendments 58309. Sorry, Senator. I'm looking at another one. There are two amendments with the number 58309.
That's correct. But I'm looking at the one that she just mentioned, the promulgation regulation rule, because.
Is that the one that's not the one she read out? Oh, okay, then I'm wrong. My apologies, Senator. Please proceed,
No.
Senator
I'm
Snow.
only questioning when we have it on page 7, and that's under 58303, if I'm correct. Yeah, 58, permissible use of consumer fireworks is very specific that the fire department shall conduct a study. The same as the AAA, okay? Maybe it's not because not what it's saying, but let me finish now, okay? I didn't ask for any comments or question to the author. I'm just questioning is that because they have that on page 7 already, that the fire department shall conduct a study. When they do a study, it's not done the same day, it's throughout the 3 years. If the effects and if this action continue. If the fire department come back 3 years, I'm sure everybody's gonna say, why are we gonna wait 3 years? I've been in the Army for 26 years. Why did I wait 26 years? Because that's when I retired. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not in favor of this because of page 7. Thank you.
Point of information, Madam Speaker. Point of
information, Senator Tactically.
Yeah, the section that the last speaker was speaking on, Guam Fire Department shall conduct a study, that has nothing to do with rules and regulations. Nothing at all.
On the amendment, was any other senator wanting to be recognized on the amendment? Senator Perez, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in full support of this amendment. I think it's really critical because in the language of the bill, she's basically the author of this amendment is ensuring that there's a loophole that's corrected. And looking at the bill, nowhere does it say the fire department shall promulgate rules and regs. And without that, without these rules and regulations, we are basically, if this bill should pass, and there's a high chance it can, because there's the amount of the needed to pass the bill is the number of sponsors needed to pass the bill will. Anyway, he was able to get the number of sponsors to pass the bill. But I guess what I'm going to say is that without rules and regulations, there is no regulation for this legalization of fireworks. And I think, this is, the author is really trying to close a loophole. And I just want to reiterate that it's very different from what's in section 583, because that's a study that's going to happen 3 years after the fact. I think prevention is the best thing when it comes to safety for our community. There's a lot of regulations out there. The federal government has a lot of regulations out there regulating explosives. Fireworks are explosives, and they rightfully should have regulations. And so what the author is doing is ensuring that the safety of our community is held foremost. I would like to, though, add an amendment to the amendment. I don't have anything written down, but what it says here is that the Guam Fire Department shall develop rules and regulations in accordance with the administrative adjudication law, consistent with this chapter, and federal law and regulations. So I want to add after this chapter, and federal laws and regulations. And if I need to create a written amendment, I will.
Is there any objection to considering that without in writing? It's to add the words "and federal law and regulations." There's been an objection to it proceeding without being in writing. So if you could please get that in writing.
Okay, I will. I can get it in writing. Thank you.
It's Halloween.
We're back from recess. Senator Perez, you had the floor.
This is Mossy, Madam Speaker. Yeah, so thank you for this opportunity for recess to put this very important amendment to the amendment in writing. And generally, it adds the words "and federal laws and federal regulations" to ensure that whatever rules that the Guam Fire Department develops also takes into account these rules that have been vetted nationwide. And just to share with you, we want to make sure that not only the consumers are safe, but also the customs and quarantine employees, anybody that is handling this, bringing this in, are not, their safety is not compromised, especially if, these individuals may or may not. It's very important that anything that's hazardous, anything that is explosive, needs to be properly labeled to basically act as a warning for those that are handling this material to take extra caution. And these regulations are there for our safety. So therefore, I ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you.
On the amendment to the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to be recognized? Senator Fisher, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would like to ask the following question of the offer of the amendment to the amendment, that question being, which federal laws and which federal regulations are you speaking of?
Would the sponsor yield to that question?
I think that's a good question, and it really harkens to the need for this because when you are developing rules and regs, you want to make sure you have everything in front of you. And so I don't claim to be an expert, but at least what I see before me is 49 CFR, parts 171 to 180 is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think we really need to do our due diligence. Obviously, this body has, in fact, sponsored this piece of legislation without even thinking about this. I think it's really critical that whoever is a body that's supposed to regulate it has all this information in front of them, because this bill lacks this.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would just make the observation that just as we should have all that information in front of us, I suppose as we consider going forward, as a legislative deliberative body, we should also have the federal laws and federal regulations in front of us, which with the offer of the amendment to the amendment, speaks about. Otherwise, we are just passing legislation without having any real idea of what it is we are doing. Yeah, I cannot support the amendment. Thank you very much, Speaker.
On the amendment, Senator San Augustine, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, being prior service, retired from the military, and even being in this body, we all need to remind ourselves that federal law trumps whatever law we pass. And everything that's brought into Guam requires a federal stamp of allowance to be brought in. That's number two. Number three, and if you deal with explosives, the federal government who gets involved will make sure that it's properly labeled. And I know the fire department, anytime they want to touch anything, the first thing they do is look at federal rules and regulations. So just to put it on, it's like, just in case. You don't need a just in case when federal law already trumps everything we do. So if there's a federal law that says we can't do fireworks, then we can't do fireworks. Unless someone can find me a law or a rule by the federal government saying we can't do it, I'm going to object to this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment to the amendment, anyone else like to be recognized? Senator Taitukui, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I stand in full support There is no reason why we should not incorporate federal laws and federal guidelines, especially when we have individuals like the Department of Fire and other agencies coming together to incorporate these federal laws. Or if they don't, and it is like previous speaker said, that we follow federal law, it's an opportunity for us to tell those who are promulgating rules and regs to also look at the federal side. It has nothing to do with the federal government says they can have fireworks or they cannot have fireworks. No, it's about safety. That's what this amendment is about. It's about safety. So by putting in this section, again, it tells those departments and agencies that look at the federal guidelines, look at their regulations, and if you need to incorporate it into Guam law, because not everybody has access to the federal guidelines or the federal laws or federal regulations. Not everybody has. I don't know if anyone here, except maybe a handful, that knows how to look up federal law and regulations. But they do know how to look at the Guam Code Annotated, and they do know how to look at GAR. We're not here to make it difficult for people to look up these laws, especially ourselves, those who don't know how to look up federal law. I stand in full support of this measure. And again, has nothing to do with whether fireworks are legal or not. It's about safety, finding guidelines for safety, promulgating rules and regulations that we can actually look at that's already established in federal law to ensure that our Guam law has the same thing. Let's not hinder the opportunity to find something that is safe for this bill. Let's not put a roadblock on it. Our people deserve better. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment to the amendment, anyone else like to be recognized? Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a saying, I think we all know it, safety first. So if you want our children to play with class 1.4G explosives and pyrotechnics, then safety first. I stand in full support of this amendment to the amendment and even the amendment. And I don't understand the hesitation to just ram this measure through. I mean, you don't want to take Senator Perez's word for it. Let's take the word of our acting fire chief and his testimony on this bill. We must be afforded an opportunity to research and maybe implement new fees and fines as part of our overall fees and finance update with a comprehensive program to regulate the sale and use of consumer-grade fireworks. We must also plan for the inevitable injuries and possible fires, both wildland and structural, caused by the negligent use of the improper discharge of fireworks. So I would just behoove my colleagues to heed the words of the assistant, the acting fire chief, and just remember, safety first.
On the amendment to the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized? If not, then the sponsor of the amendment to the amendment may close. Senator Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't understand the resistance to these safety measures. It almost seems that those that are opposing it really want to get our community at risk. Is this what this is about? They really want to release harm into our community, not regulate something as important as explosives? It wasn't too long ago that they were so quick to stop explosive activity, and now they're taking a 180 turnaround. I mean, what's the reason behind this? It doesn't make sense to me. I did quote 49 CFR, parts 171 to 180. It states consumer fireworks are considered hazardous materials. Isn't that enough? Are they willing to put at risk the lives of our customs and quarantine employees? That's what it sounds like to me. And to assume that federal laws trump local laws? You know what they say about assume? We can't assume that. We are passing laws in this body. Later in time, passage perhaps. (49 CFR parts 172) just ask for emergency contact and telephone numbers. What's the harm in that? Apparently, they don't want safety measures. That's not good enough for our people. Our people don't mean that much to them to support something as simple as aligning our safety regulations, aligning the regulations of fireworks to what's been vetted time and time again. And what does this body come to? No matter how much information that can be put forward, they choose not to use that information, even in the best interest of our public. By not including this, we're leaving a big door open for people to get hurt. We've heard stories in Saipan. They legalized fireworks, and they saw the consequence: increase in emergencies of children getting their fingers blown off. Why do we have to wait for an accident to happen when we know common sense tells us that if we don't put the proper safeguards in place, we're allowing these accidents to occur? I think this is general disregard for the safety of our people if we do not accept these changes. And I ask for my colleagues' reconsideration of their opposition, but I also ask, more importantly, I ask for my colleagues' support.
On the amendment to the amendment, all in favor? Is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand on the amendment to the amendment. Five. Amendment fails. We're back on the Taitigui amendment. Is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized? Or Senator Perez, had you concluded on the Taitigui amendment? You still have the floor. Is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the Taitigui amendment? If not, then the sponsor may close on the amendment. I don't know.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think this says it all, promulgating rules and regulations for the safety of our people. And I ask my colleagues for their support. This will go a long way to ensuring the safety for our community. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. On the Taitigui amendment, is there any objection? Is there an objection? There's an objection. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 6, motion fails. Senator Tactical, out of time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Line 1, page 11 is my next amendment. It adds a new section to the bill to read 58309, tax levied on consumer fireworks. An excess tax shall be levied on the final retail sale of consumer firework products as defined in this act. The rate of 50% of the retail price per product. Excise tax imposed must be visible as the line item at the point of sale on the product of sale receipt. Taxes levied shall be paid by the 20th day of the following month. Then section 58310 is tax proceeds. All monies collected from the tax levied in this chapter are hereby appropriated and shall be distributed to the following. 50% of the monies collected under the tax levied by this chapter shall be deposited to the Guam Fire Department Enhanced 911 Emergency Reporting System Fund. And B, 50% of the monies collected under this tax levy by this chapter shall be deposited to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, GMHA, revolving fund to be used toward establishment of a burn unit. That's my amendment, and I think I spoke on it earlier. We know we're shorted. There's a shortage at Guam Fire. This would help them to have to deal with accidents that could happen from fireworks, that are most likely going to happen, and of course the Guam Memorial Hospital. There is no burn unit on this island. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to speak on the amendment? Senator San Augustine, you're recognized on the...
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just like the author of the amendment, please explain an excise tax levied on the final retail sale of consumer fireworks as defined in this act. 50%. Can you please explain that more? Like, give me $1. Like, if it's $100, then you're going to add 50% of that price as a tax, or 50% of the value of $100. I mean, I'm trying to understand this because I have no objection to the bottom part where it says go to fire department for 911, the Guam Memorial for the burn unit. I support that. But the 50%, what are we saying? If you sell the product, what are we saying on that? I just want to make sure it's clear. The percentage just doesn't make too much sense.
Would the sponsor yield to that question?
I will try to answer it, Madam Speaker. It says clearly, if you finish the sentence, it says at the rate of 50% of the retail price per product. So it is per product. So if a firecracker costs $10, then it will be 50% of that $10 will be added to as a sales tax or excess tax.
Senator San Augustine, you have the floor.
So that means if the product's $10, 50%, so that means the product's actually being sold for $15.
Right. Right.
Okay. I don't know. That's pricey, but you know, I'm not gonna debate that. I just want to make sure that we understand that when we do a levy like this, that's across the board. If this bill was to pass with this, everyone's buying fireworks or selling fireworks, the consumer must pay 50% more for that product. So all the fireworks that exist today, the prices is going up. Okay, so thank you.
Your point of information, Madam Speaker.
Please state your point of information, Senator.
Actually, Madam Speaker, I think what we're trying to do with this is to ensure that the children, you know, I mean, you make it not expensive, then kids are going to go and buy this. You know, I mean, if the price is too high, I mean, that's the whole intent, technically, but I think the majority of it, Madam Speaker, is the reason where this funding is going to, the importance of where this funding is going to.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator San Augustine, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, I want to make sure it's very clear, and I'll find it somewhere in the bill. There's a restriction on who can buy it. There's no children there. They're all adults. None of my grandchildren will be able to buy it because, well, Some of them will because they're all over 21. 4 of them are. But the younger ones won't be able to buy it because why? There's an age limit on what you can buy. No different than cigarette or alcohol or whatever. There's an age limit. But like I said, no problem. If you want to charge somebody 50% more. That's business. And being the appropriation, I can enjoy that revenue coming in. I don't know if the consumers will be willing to pay for it because it's going to skyrocket all the prices. And the current folks that run fireworks will feel it instantly because they're buying it now. Thank you.
Thank you. On the amendment, Senator Dueñas on the amendment.
Madam Chair. I rise to some of the concerns that were just expressed by the previous speaker. Some lawmakers get accused of seeing a tax that they just cannot resist. But normally this discussion is done in a way of the BPT. Many people have stated, and this has been a back and forth with the BPT that's raised, whether or not a 1% or a 2% is an increase of 50% or 1% or 2%. Well, if you double it, it's 100. Here you're 50. Now, I understand absolutely the discussion on, the burn unit, 911. But I guess maybe I'll ask the author to yield. So does this mean now then that when GVB brings in the fireworks for New Year's, it's usually an average between $40,000 and $50,000 in order to bring in? Those are consumer grade. So now a $50,000 fireworks show will now go up to $75,000. Would the author yield on that?
Would the author yield to the question?
As I mentioned earlier, Madam Speaker, they're moving toward drones now, which is greater entertainment. I mean, you can write your name across the sky, and they're looking at other alternatives because even though fireworks are expensive and pricey, the alternative is, a safer environment for the audience. And whether it costs that much, I think it should be that much money, especially with all the repercussions that will happen if any accident should happen, let alone the environment. So yes, it will cost more.
Senator Dueñas, you have the floor.
Yeah, so with regard to that, I just think this is absolutely excess taxation, and just being the conservative that I am, I'm sorry, I cannot support this. Maybe if there was an adjustment to the BPT as it stands with regard to, fireworks, I could maybe jump on board with that, making it 6% or the like, but, it's obvious what this is trying to do. Just price everything out of, in order to make sure that all the regulations, in fact, the ATF, I'll do that in my discussion on the motion in terms of what safety is. But that's not the point here at this point, but I object to this amendment. Super excessive taxation, something I cannot support.
Thank you. On the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to be
Point
recognized?
of
Senator
information.
Fisher, you are recognized on the amendment.
It's okay, Madam Speaker. I'll hold.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Looking over this, first I want to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Dueñas as well as Senator San Augustine. Section A says an excise tax shall be levied at the rate of 50% of the retail price product. Most, I think, bodies, deliberative bodies, of course, when they are thinking about imposing a tax, like to know that they're doing it for a rational reason. that being the case, as we try and suss out the rationale behind 50%, Madam Speaker, I wonder if the proponent of this amendment would yield to the following question. Why 50% as opposed to, say, 75 or 35 or 62 or whatever? This just seems to be so arbitrary as to be irrational.
Would the sponsor yield to that question?
Absolutely, Madam Speaker. Like I mentioned earlier, Guam does not have a burn unit to have to deal with the repercussions of fireworks and the dangers that it causes. Guam also is lacking manpower at GFD as well. So here we are passing legislation without any funding whatsoever to cover these costs. I haven't even got into EPA. I haven't even gone to agriculture and the cost it's going to entail them, the burden that's going to be put on them. So this amount, whether if you feel it's excessive, then you have the option to lower the amount from 50% and divide up the proceeds to these areas that we do not have to address any accidents that come from fireworks. So they can, by all means, any one of these guys who spoke up earlier can come up and make amendments to the BPT. They can do something, but no, it's obvious, what they're trying to do here. Just ramrod this bill down our throats with no protection and no funding whatsoever.
Senator Fisher, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. The response from the gentlelady was non-responsive. The question was, why 50% as opposed to a number?
She did respond, Senator.
Yes, but she didn't respond to that question, ma'am.
She gave the rationale. You asked for the rational basis. She did.
I'll be happy to repeat what I said.
Just a minute, just Senator Taitzui. Senator Fisher, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In spite of the chair's assessment of what was just heard on the floor, I would differ, of course. There was no explanation as to why we chose 50% as opposed to 55%, other than, well, we need a burn unit. Nobody's going to dispute that. But why does 50% get us there, whereas 75% won't, or 25% won't? The purpose of this tax, of course, is to entirely undermine my friend's bill and essentially destroy it. It is a phrase frequently heard in legislative bodies, a poison pill, and it is entirely designed to destroy this bill.
Point of personal privilege, Madam Speaker. Point of personal privilege. First off, a poison pill, really? My intention is to find a bill, if this bill passes, is to provide amendments that will protect our community, that would fund the areas that we have no manpower in or a hospital, the burn unit. That's what I'm doing. If this is a poison pill just to provide that kind of safety, then he's totally off.
Thank you, Senator.
So that's
Senator
my
Fisher,
point of
you
personal
have the floor.
privilege.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we can all agree here in the hall that that my earlier statements were not aimed at an individual, and so a point of personal privilege is out of order. But nevertheless, ma'am, I would like to just make the additional observation that the body is considering whether or not to legalize something on Guam, which was formerly legal. And then we want to tax it at an unconscionable rate that makes it absolutely, well, again, I won't reiterate it. The intent of the bill, the intent of the amendment, rather, ma'am, is to destroy the bill, and I cannot support it. Thank you very much.
On the amendment, is there any other senator who would like to recognize you for the amendment? Senator Parrish, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this amendment. It's very clear that, we just passed a bill helping the Guam Memorial Hospital to get out of its financial problems, and now we're adding this bill that can create more demand for the services. And I think it's really important that, should a bill pass, should this bill pass, that it is not an unfunded mandate. We know from the experience of Saipan that there have been increases in emergency visits from fireworks. We don't want to let loose. Basically, I think what the author is trying to do is to ensure that we have the adequate services which are already taxed without the passage of this bill, to ensure that there's money available to take care of our people on our island. And should a business want to partake in this, they would have to, think about, including this cost into the sale of this very dangerous substance. I mean, the way the bill is written, it's created for maximal profit and externalizing the harm. And what this amendment does, it tries to address that, to ensure that the cost is covered. Because the social cost, environmental cost, the health cost is not included into the contemplation of this bill. So I rise in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. On the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the amendment? Barnett, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think what's unconscionable is they don't want rules and regulations. They don't want to tax it. They just want to push the bill through. And I'm just a little confused because half of the monies collected would go to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. And I know that my colleagues to the right of me just supported a measure to give GMH money. So I'm not sure about the inconsistency. So I just ask that let's get our heads back on, all right? Let's turn out a bill that is going to protect the people of Guam and help the people of Guam. Let's do the right thing, colleagues. Thank you.
On the amendment, is there anyone else who would like to be recognized on the amendment? Sorry, Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the spirit of cooperation and trying to find, I've asked legal counsel to do some research about the ability of just the body to be able to oppose taxes and everything without public referendum. I do recall there was conversation in previous legislatures, and I don't know, so she's doing the research on whether or not statute exists as to whether or not we can take on that. Take it on, and at what were the parameters to this? So, to be able to before we continue to go down this road as to whether or not we're going to pass this, we're going to lower it or whatnot, we have to make sure we have the ability to be able to do that. So with that, Madam Speaker, if you can just give legal counsel just a couple minutes to be able to check. I don't know specifically what that language is, but I do recall there was the conversation. And we just need, to make sure.
Senator Ross, would you object if we come back then to you? We'll save your time.
Sure.
And we'll continue with, all right.
That'll be fine. Thank you very much.
While you consult. Senator Lujan on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm not one to rise for any tax increases. As a matter of fact, I got bills that would suspend taxes on food and medicine and lowering the BPT. Now, I understand, again, a burn center, and absolutely, we need a burn center. But rather than 50%, why don't we just designate that the tax, the 5% tax, go to the burn center? Designate that to go towards that entity. Ammunition is sold and taxed at that same rate of 5%. Recently, marijuana was legal here on our island, I don't think the tax rate, and that's contrary to federal law. And I don't think that even the taxation on marijuana is at a 50% rate. And that's against federal law. So again, I will always stand up and oppose any increases in taxes. So I'm in opposition of 50%. Like I said, we can designate the tax revenue from the sale of consumer fireworks at the current rate that people are taxed on, and consumers are taxed on consumer items, and that be designated to go to the burn center. So that's all anybody introducing a sales tax higher than what we have right now, I would be in opposition of such. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator.
Point of information, Madam Speaker.
Please state your point of information, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to make it clear that this is tax is levied on consumer fireworks, not commercial. So earlier it was spoken that there's going to be an unbelievable amount on the amount when GVB sets out fireworks, or no, this has nothing to do with commercial fireworks. This is only consumer fireworks. Thank you.
On the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the amendment? If not, then sponsor may close on the amendment.
Again, thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to make it clear that if we're going to pass legislation, you know, one of my biggest sticklers is where's the funding? Where's the funding? Even a good friend of mine, Senator Barnett, you know, the guy's great. He has some great ideas. And if there was, even him, I ask him, where's the funding? And he looks for it. He tries to find the funding for his bills. I think everybody should do that. We don't want to put out legislation, unfunded mandate legislation. We always dog on the federal government for putting, you know, unfunded mandates for Guam, and that we have to cover the cost. Here we found a way to cover the cost. And again, you know, one of the senators saying it's going to cost now from $40,000 to $75,000. Well, no, it's not, because that only deals with consumer fireworks, not commercial. So GVB is still going to be able to, well, prices increase every year, but get a decent cost on their fireworks. So let's make that clear. But we have to find a way to fund this. Not enough firemen. Not enough firemen out there. Not even a burn unit at our hospital. Let me have your addresses and I'll send anybody who hurt themselves. Let you take care of their burns. Give me your home address. I asked my colleagues, we need to fund these areas. And I'm sorry, 4% or 5% is not going to do it. Especially if you're ramming a bill down our throats like this, without the proper rules and regulations and without the proper funding. Please think about this. So I asked my colleagues to please support funding mechanism for this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. On the amendment, is there any objection? There's an objection. All in favor of this amendment, please raise your hand. Amendment fails. 4. Senator Taitigui, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, my next amendment is on line 10, page 7, to add a new item to the bill to read, further fireworks may only be used between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. on July 21st and between 6 p.m. on December 31st and 1 a.m. on January 1st of each year. If we don't put a time frame in which these fireworks go off, it's open season, my friends. Tan Maria is going to be calling their mayor's office, telling that people are shooting off fireworks in the middle of the night on October 21st. Not July 21st, but October 21st. May 21st. January 21st. There's no limit. These fireworks can keep going off all day long. And our mayors, the frontliners, who sent again a letter to this body asking us to hold off because they're the frontliners. They're going to have to deal with this. So I ask my colleagues, do you really want fireworks to be shooting off at all hours of the night, 365 days out of the year, 24 hours? Really? Are you going to do that to our Manumku who's trying to sleep? Are you going to do that to the mothers of babies, the babies who are trying to get their sleep? You know, to pass a bill with just an open air, open skies, it's ridiculous. So if we're looking at nostalgia, celebrating on these particular days that are important to people, then we'll limit it. Why did I come up with 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.? Because I think it's just the time people have gotten home. They're in the safety of their home. And 10 p.m., people are going to sleep around that time. Some of them don't celebrate Liberation. Some of them don't celebrate New Year's Eve. They're in bed by 10 a.m. So let's not make this an open field day on blowing up things 24/7, 365 days out of the year. So I ask my colleagues to please support this amendment.
On the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to be recognized on the amendment? Senator San Augustine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the amendment, on the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. On the first 13 words, no objection. The remaining, I got a problem. 6 to 10, no problem. But then again, at the same token, it doesn't recognize July 4th. They don't recognize July 21st. The fiestas. Please, por favor. Tarao pa ako, okay? Bolos de go be cuentos, amlago comentos cuentos and tempomo. Bolos de go finina. I don't recognize July 4th. It doesn't, July 21st, 6 to 10. Really? December 24th, Christmas Eve. January, the time 6 to 10. If it was every day, understood. I like to sleep and not worry about explosive going on out there in Zigu. But you know, I hear it all the time anyway because there's weapons fired. And everyone else I know knows that. But with that, thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Actually, to ask a question of the proponent of the amendment. Is it the intention of this amendment to eliminate July 4th, Independence Day, as a day upon which fireworks may be used? Thank you.
Would the sponsor yield to that question?
Was it intended to leave out 4th of July? Actually, absolutely not. And I had an opportunity to talk to the author of the legislation and said, you know, July 4th is not on here. If you want to put it on, just make an amendment to include it. I have no objections to that.
Senator Fisher, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker.
On the amendment, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Yeah, just also have concerns about the fact, what if there's a fire danger? So that also needs to be added as far as, should there be a time of, that should trump everything, right? When there's a fire, the hazards for fire to exist, especially with climate change now. July, these are the dry months, possibly even December. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
On the amendment, Senator Kanata, you're recognized. On the amendment, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? On the amendments, Senator Kanata.
Well, I just based on a geological survey by the federal government, the dry season lasts from January to June, while the rainy months are July to December. So, just wanted to put that on the record, and that's from the federal government.gov USGS survey, and I think that's eats in, according to Dr. Underwood.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, is there any other senator who'd like to be recognized? On the Taitagui amendment. Senator Kanata, you still have the floor? Are you raising your hand? No. On the amendment, Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I was going to note that it's kind of wild to me that we're pushing this bill through and we didn't even regulate what days you could set off fireworks. It goes to show the lack of planning and forethought. And really, I'll just tell the people of Guam, it's almost like a bullying atmosphere in here, trying to make this bill safer for the people of Guam. So yeah, I rise in support of this amendment, and I agree. And I think we have had a high fire danger rating in the months that Uncle Sam says are wet. But I did want to commend Senator Perez for her remarks. And if I may, Madam Speaker, I was in receipt of this letter from the Department of Agriculture that the Forestry Division head, Ms. Christine Farron, she had originally provided this testimony in May. But as this bill was put on the agenda, and so that recirculating this testimony along with the message, one last push. And so I just want to read this into the record. The bill not only is oppositional to the Forest Action Plan, which is the federally approved state action plan. The GFAP describes wildfires as a top threat to our forests and natural resources. Approximately 4.5% of total land area has burned annually on Guam from 2015 to 2022. The proposed amendments will not only do nothing to support reducing our wildfire risk, but instead increase the potential for danger at a time when public safety lacks the necessary personnel to staff at full capacity to meet our current needs with regard to wildfires. Our current law, as is, has been applauded by fire partners across national and even international borders. With respect, we understand the draw, the emotion tied to memories of fireworks and celebration, but we can continue to have those memories under the existing controlled and regulated celebrations we currently rely upon. People of Guam, please call your senators. Let's get some safety into this measure. Let's get some responsibility into this measure. Ms. Farron continues, we understand that for many in our community, this is tied to simple, clean fun, but when certain types of fun also pose true and substantial risks to our island's delicate jungle habitat and our community's access to clean reefs and healthy fish ecosystems, then we must leave that fun behind. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the amendment?
Ma'am, I rise to make a motion.
You don't have the floor right now, Senator, sorry.
Ma'am, I'd like to move to call the question.
You do not have the floor right now, Senator. Senator Barnett,
I just wanted to make a point of annoyance that this is the third time they
Senator
tried to
Barnett,
call
you're
the
out of
question and
order.
kill debate. And I
You're
just
out
think the
of
people
order,
of Guam
Senator.
should know that we have senators in here who don't even want to
Senator-
debate and discuss these critical and
Senator,
crucial
you're out of
measures,
order.
and Senator Fisher is one of
We
them.
will proceed.
Sorry, madam.
We are now asking for anyone else who would like to speak on the amendment. Senator Duenas, you're recognized on the amendment.
Madam Speaker, I have the floor, and I move at this time to call the previous question.
There's a motion to call for the previous question, which will end debate. There's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Senator Teitzke, you can close on your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's so shameful. Everyone who's watching right now, everybody who's watching, it's already on I'm getting texts from parents saying, thank you, Senator Teitzke, for standing up here and fighting for this. Even Kandit News is reporting things out. News is watching every single one of you who've objected to the safety, to putting safety mechanisms in this bill. Safety. Now, this amendment that I just tried to proffer would not allow a free-for-all. Free-for-all for everybody to start shooting fireworks. Is this a means for a store to sell more fireworks? If we limit it only to 2 days out of the year? Does this mean that, oh, I can't make a whole lot of money? And I'd like to ask, Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask the author of this legislation, does he plan on selling fireworks in his stores? I would like to ask, and not just, Madam Speaker, not just the author of the legislation, but every sitting senator here, do they plan on selling fireworks? I'd like to ask the question.
Point of personal privilege.
I'd like to ask the question.
Senator to Nicholas, please state your point of personal privilege.
Ma'am, I'm insulted by that question. All I've ever wanted was to make people happy. That's it. Just so they can enjoy fireworks, safe and sane. And I didn't plan on selling the fireworks. I didn't even actually think I was going to run. But they told me, they said, Senator or Sir, if that was the best way to get it through, rather than collecting signatures, it's best if you pass it on the floor yourself. And so I listened to the nice folks at the Guam Election Commission. It's not that I wanted to sell. I'm a Santa Claus. I just want to make people happy. And before I check out of this world, I wanted to, give this to the people. I've never been maligned in my life as much as I've been in this body just now. And just want people to be happy, that's all. And by the grace of God, I made it here.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Teitzke.
The question is not just for the author of the legislation, but if there's anybody else. Senator Fisher, you want to make it a little bit louder, please, so they can't hear me? Yeah. Make it a little bit louder so people realize that it has nothing to do with, it's a nostalgia. It's like I said earlier. Once upon a time, we didn't have car seats for children or smoking on airlines. Those were changed. Now, the good senator from Santa Rita, if it means to put something through because he said he was going to do, regardless if it's going to hurt our community or kill somebody or have blood on his hands, and that's his thing. But he never even said still that he wasn't going to sell. But it wasn't just him. I asked anybody in this body that has been objecting. Are they planning on selling fireworks? Because, if I may, Senator San Nicolas, if I may, because I have been asked.
Point of personal privilege,
I have been asked by constituents to ask the questions.
Senator Titleaway, please state your point of personal
She
privilege.
continues to malign me, and you know, if there's anybody here concerned about the safety of the children, it's me. I would never place anybody in harm. We're talking about safe and sane fireworks. This is legal in most jurisdictions in the states.
Thank you, Senator.
In Saipan, it's legal, and the first.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, ma'am.
Senator Titleaway.
Madam Speaker, like I said, I would like to, if there's any senator in here that plans on selling fireworks, I'd like to know. I'd ask them to please raise their hand. If nobody has any plans to sell any fireworks, then I didn't see anybody's hands being raised. But I have to ask because I've been asked by my constituents. People will come up to me saying that this bill seems to be self-serving. Why would we want to put people in danger? Why would we want to put our firemen in danger? Why would we put a bill through without a burn unit? Why would we have fireworks going off 365 days out of the year, all day, all night, to push this through? You gotta ask anyone who's watching. Look at all those who objected. Look at all those who didn't raise their who raised their hands in objection of these amendments. You need to call them and ask them. I have my premonition why. But that's my premonition that it hurts me. It hurts me to know that I sit in this body amongst people who are vindictive and egotistical and doesn't want to care about the people of Guam. It's so hurtful to know that there are some people in here like that. It's not for the betterment of this island. Why, you do me a favor, I'll vote for your bill. If you vote for my bill, that's what goes on, people. That's what goes on in this body. It's not in the best interest of you. This amendment was so simple. At least this amendment. You don't want to put any rules and regulations in here to make sure that it's safe on this island. You didn't want to do that. Then at least let's limit it. Limit it. And if everyone in here who wants to hate me because I'm standing up here fighting for what I think is right, then hate me. Oh my gosh, join the crowd. Join the crowd. Because I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to stand out and fight for the safety and well-being of our people of Guam. Because I was elected to do that. I wasn't elected to make deals on the floor. If you vote for my bill, I'll vote for yours, or get mad because I didn't vote.
Point of personal privilege.
There's nothing
Please state your point of personal
And it
privilege.
better-
Senator San Nicolas, you have the floor. Please state your
She's
point
accusing me of making deals. I don't make deals. I never go around asking people for their support.
Madam Chair,
I'm going to
please
do that or
correct
do
the
this.
senator.
I never-
Senator
I
Tello, give him
never
some
do that.
time.
Ma'am, I will.
All right.
It's enough.
I've
Order,
never done that.
please. Senator San Nicolas has the floor. Senator Kanata, Senator Titleaway, Senator San Nicolas has the floor. I've asked him to state his point of personal privilege. Please state. What did I do to?
You know,
Please state your point of personal privilege.
she's accusing me of making deals, and I don't do that. I don't do that. I've left everything up to the body and to them if they wanted to support it. I've never lobbied for this. I've never gone to the senators here to lobby for anybody. I've never made backroom deals. You're accusing the wrong person of doing that. I've never done that, and I will never do that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to read the rule on questions of privilege. This is This is, I'm just trying to get the citation. Just give me 1 second.
Madam Speaker, just a point of information. I think we're still trying to close on that amendment.
Right, yes, but there's been several points of personal privilege raised during this debate, and I want to read the rule. Questions of privilege, this is from our standing rules, says questions of privilege shall be raised at any time. Senator, I think I need to read the rule on the previous question as well. Yeah, on the previous question, it shall require a majority vote of the senators present, which it received, and its effect shall be to put an end to all debate, except that the author of the bill or the amendment shall have the right to close, and the question under the discussion shall thereupon be immediately put to vote. And that's exactly where we are. The author of the amendment is closing on her amendment. Question of privilege has been raised. Questions of privilege shall be raised at any time. They shall be first, those affecting the rights of the legislature and Guahan collectively, its safety, dignity, and integrity of its proceedings. And second, the rights, reputations, and conduct of members in their representative capacities only. Questions of privilege of members must relate to a person's public allegations of official misconduct against a member or related charges against their character that would, if true, incapacitate them from membership. None of that has been raised. Members are not entitled to the floor on a question of personal privilege unless the subject that they propose to present relates to them in their representative capacity. Merely criticizing a member's act in the legislature does not constitute a question of personal privilege. Accusing a person of disreputable conduct before that person became a member, or similar criticism of a member personally and not in that person's capacity as a member, does not constitute a question of personal privilege. Senator Taitui, you have 5 minutes, 13 seconds remaining on your closing of the bill, of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do understand the author of the legislation, who it's first time here, and to understand when it is directed straight at you personally and not making it as a whole. I hope that clarified by reading the law. But you know, Madam Speaker, it's just, earlier today, I had a meeting with the author of the legislation and another senator. And it was agreed then that this bill would be set aside to allow agencies and other individuals to come and make this bill a safe bill. A safe bill. And he agreed. Next thing you know, I come in here, and the influence of several people, he changed his mind. It's almost like, did you change it, or you just lied to me and said you were going to do it, and then now you didn't do it? So it's confusing, and it begs to differ on his character.
I got a point of order.
I retract that. I retract that, Madam Speaker.
I just got a point of order.
Please state your point of order, Senator San Augustine.
Point of order, you've asked the author of the amendment to close her amendment. The amendment, everything she said has nothing to do with what the amendment was. I need that amendment closed and move on. That's all. That's point of order. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the amendment. Back to the amendment, I think the amendment has to do with everything I said. Everything. From safety, from funding, everything that has to do with this amendment. There were other amendments even before this that would have backed this up to only allow 7 days to purchase fireworks before these dates, July 21st and New Year's Eve, to even control the sale of it. But of course, this body decides to just beg for the question and ramrod this bill through. Why? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, and that's the texts I'm getting. Why are these senators not wanting to put safety mechanisms in this bill? It's going to go all over social media. It's going to go all over the paper. Senators wanted to ask for the question, to vote on it, and ramrod this through without any safety mechanisms put in place to protect our children. You guys really want to go down there? Free for all. Are you going to be able to sleep at night? Oh, I'm just going to do it. Well, maybe everyone is just so scarred or calloused, it doesn't bother them. But it bothers me. It bothers me to a point where, okay, fine. You know, I was friends with the author. If he wants to hate me after this, it's okay. Because I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do a job I was elected to do. And that is to protect the welfare of our community, to protect our environment, our people. You know how much debris is going to be spread around when those fireworks go off? You think that they're going to stand and pick up every single paper or any other explosive that might not have went off? You light a firecracker and you throw it, it doesn't go off. Nobody's going to go and pick that up and throw it in the trash. They're just going to leave it. I have a friend of mine who goes four-wheeling up in the mountains and tells me that he sees rubbish from fireworks, people lighting them up in the mountain. But they didn't pick up their trash. And like a good person, he picks it up. Now, can you imagine, once this is legal, 364 days out of the year, how much trash is going to be on there, how much of the environment that's going to be infected with all this trash? Some of this debris goes straight into our ocean. So there's no way to pick up the trash there once it flies into the ocean if they're going to blow it up near the beach. Firemen. We're putting them in harm's way. They deal with fires. 2 to 3 fires a day, brush fires during dry season. 2 to 3 a day, people. And 2 to 3 a week on structural fires a day. Structural. 2 to 3 a week on structural. And that came from the fire chief. I asked my colleagues to please support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, is there an objection? There's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. On the amendment. 4, motion fails. We're recessed until 9 a.m. on Monday.